In the previous video, we spoke about getting a system that will challenge the PS5 Pro, but it would be a system that is brand new, and of course that comes with more expense, but you do get the added bonus of having a warranty and just the knowledge that your parts are new, and there is also something calming about that. But if you really want to sort of challenge the PS5 Pro in terms of price, I think the place where you can not just challenge it but beat it quite comfortably is in the second-hand market. So let's get into it. Which parts have I selected to challenge the PS5 Pro? Now, thank you to my community for letting me know that the PS5 Pro actually has, it is an 8-core CPU, but it's not quite as good as I thought it was. It has 6 cores for actual gaming performance, and then it has 2 cores to run the operating system on, which is very interesting to me. And of course, it does take away from the performance somewhat and drops it down in terms of the scale of at which it performs. So I said that it is sort of the challenger to maybe something like a newer CPU like a 7700 or a 5800X or something like that. But it seems that it is more on the level of the 5500, which is to me quite surprising, and definitely it makes it easier to challenge in terms of pricing performance. And so the previous video to some extent is even better than the PS4 in terms of gaming performance, with talking about the CPU, because of that difference in gaming cores and gaming performance. And so I think that CPU is actually a good choice, the 5600X or 5600, because it will actually challenge the PS5 Pro. But with that said, with the same budget, what can we do in the second-hand market? Now, Jawa.gg is a site that I like to use for these kinds of things because it's a relatively reputable site. So using this site, I've gotten some examples preloaded that I want to talk to you about. And so if it were me and I were building a second-hand PC, which I really like to do, I would probably go with something like this. Now, usually I would do Ryzen, but I've gotten a little bored of just doing Ryzen all the time, and I wanted to see if I can challenge myself to do something with Intel as well. So getting into it, I would go with something like this. Now, this is the nice thing about second-hand sites, is you get to get these sort of combo deals at points, and this is a good example of that. Now, of course, with second-hand sales, you never have that level of security, but in using a site like Java, you do get some level of security because they have a buyer protection program, and of course they have reviews. So if you look here, you can see the reviews that a seller has gotten, and you can sort of read all about the buyer protection, and you can read the reviews at the bottom to make sure that this seller is trustworthy. So this one seems relatively trustworthy, and with that said, let's get into the parts. So in this combo deal, we have a i5 12600KF. Now, this is not an overclockable SKU, but it doesn't have to be to challenge the PS5 Pro, because this is gaming strictly. And this CPU is an interesting one. It is, of course, an Intel CPU, and so it has 10 cores technically, but it's 6 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores for a total of 16 threads. The max turbo frequency is just under 5 gigahertz, which is quite high, and it does have a 20 megabyte Intel Smart Cache. The CPU runs on 125 watts of base power, and it can boost up to 150. So a relatively performance CPU for the power usage. I think this one will be great for gaming. And of course, it will blow the PS5 Pro CPU out of the water. As for the motherboard, we have a Z790 Pro with built-in Wi-Fi. Now, when you do buy second-hand, you can sort of go for those added features like built-in Wi-Fi, having 4 DIMM slots, having 3 or 4 NVMe slots. You know, you get these sort of bonuses because you are getting a cheaper price for a better part because of the used status. And along with that, we have 16 gigs of G.Skill Ripjaws VRAM running at 3200 megahertz. And yeah, that's the one part where the PS5 Pro beats us. It has 20 gigs of RAM. We only have 16, but just add another, you know, maybe $30 and you will be able to go up to 32 gigs. But for gaming, 16 is still fine, and you know, coupling it with a good graphics card is all that's necessary. And you know, speak of the devil, the graphics card, this is where we are really going to outshine the PS5 Pro. This is a Asus ROG Strix 3070 Ti, and this card is a beauty, and it's a beast as well. This card is a 10 gigabyte card. This one is an 8 gigabyte card. Actually, I thought it was 10. I think the 3080 is a 10. This is an 8 gigabyte card, so maybe a little low on the VRAM, but for $350 there are options, AMD specific options that do offer, I think, up to 12 gigs of VRAM. But still, even at 8 gigs of VRAM, this card is a beast, and it is just a beautiful thing to look at. This card is relatively better than the PS5 Pro, and it's going to be able to run games at higher frame rates, you know, higher refresh rates, and it's just going to be an overall better experience. So with that said, as for the CPU cooler, it really doesn't matter too much what you choose. You know, 125 TDP CPU isn't going to overheat easily, so something like this should be fine. Just go for something cheap but a brand that you recognize. In this case, the Be Quiet Pure Rock 2. But as I said, it doesn't matter too much. This one looks nice, and it's a performance CPU cooler. It's a little bit small, but it'll be fine for this build. Moving on to the NVMe M.2 drive, we are going with a Western Digital 561 terabyte drive. Now again, you have leeway here. This is something that I would probably buy new, just because I like to start fresh with my SSDs, and you know, get a clean install of everything and just have the new product. So for some things, that is sort of how I feel about it. But even if you do buy a second-hand one, you can easily check what its health is, and for $40, it's really not going to break the bank. 1 terabyte here, you can easily upgrade to 2 terabyte for about $70. So yeah, and this is, I believe, a Gen 3 drive. I'm not too sure, but in terms of speed, it's going to be close. You can easily get a Gen 4 drive as well for a couple extra bucks. Moving on to the case. Now, this is another example of a combo that is sort of, it shows the benefits of buying secondhand, and this looks like a new case to me. You get RGB cable combs with it. You get a keyboard and a mouse and a mouse pad that don't look too good, but you know, you get them. So it is what it is. For the case, again, as with the SSD, this is something that I like to buy new, because in terms of pricing, there's not a big discrepancy between a used case and a new case. Now, something like this, I mean, 25 bucks is insanely cheap. This is sort of unrealistically cheap. You'll aim for about 50 bucks usually for a good case, but you know, a case like this will serve you fine. It's a personal thing. For me, I really care about the way my computer looks, so I probably wouldn't get something like this. But this isn't ugly, and the cable combs, you know, they do add a lot of value. You know, from the front, this doesn't look too bad. So, and you do get a couple of fans with it. So, not a bad choice. Probably not for me, but this is a personal thing. You can just take whatever you want. Finally, getting to the power supply. Again, something that I would probably buy new. This is a never opened, probably old stock Seasonic, and this is a 750 watt unit. So yeah, you'll probably get something like a 650 to 750 for this scale of computer, and something like this will be fine. Now again, it says that this has never been opened. If that's the case, then it's not a bad price for $120, but it's not a great price either. You could get a 700 watt new power supply for that price, but this is quite a good one because it's an 80 plus gold, and you do want to protect your graphics card when you have something like an RTX card. But you could aim for like $80 with a power supply and you'll be fine. It doesn't have to be something as nice as this. This is just an example of what you can find, because new this would be probably like 140, 150. So yeah, those are the parts that I've chosen for this custom build. If we look at the PS5 Pro specs, it has 8 cores, 16 threads, so our CPU is going to beat this. As I said in the beginning, 6 cores of gaming for the PS5 Pro and 2 cores to run the OS. It has the Radeon A3 graphics card that is equivalent to between a 4060 and a 4060 3070, something like that. But we have the 3070 Ti, and yeah, we are going to beat this. This has that 20 gigs of unified RAM, and it has 1.65 terabyte of storage. It also has, you know, some decent networking and stuff like that. But looking at our parts, you know, this is going to be a very nice computer. It's going to run really well. It's going to run all your games on Ultra, on HD, close to Ultra on 2K, and probably close to Ultra on 4K, depending on the game, but for most games. We have some really good parts. Again, I would probably choose a new SSD case and power supply, but that is up to you. But apart from the build that I selected from Java.gg specifically, there are also custom builds that are ready made, and it's just easy. You just go, you buy this build, and again, check the reviews. If you believe that the seller is going to deliver the PC as they said, you know, if they have a good reputation, this is easy. The PC looks nice. It comes with RGB lighting. It comes with cable combs. Nice white case. This is probably for the layman the easiest option. Now, this is quite a good computer. This is if we compare prices, the PC that I build is going to be close to about $850 to $900. This one is $850, and this has a 3070, a 5600, 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and a 1 terabyte M.2 drive. So this is close to what we selected. You do pay a little bit of a premium because it's pre-built, but you know, if you're not someone that wants to build your own PC, you just want a game, then this is a good option, and it looks really nice. So you can always sort of consider something like this. And if you want to spend a little bit less and still get close to the performance, there are other options. Look at this, a 2070 with a 3600, which is a 6-core CPU, and it is an older architecture, but it's not way worse, and it does have a 2070. So for HD gaming at PS5, between PS5 and PS5 Pro levels, this is a really good PC for the price. This is going to run you about $580, and again, just check the reviews and make sure the PC is sort of what you need. But something like this is more than good enough, and this isn't quite as good as a PS5 Pro, but it's not super far off either. So yeah, there are a lot to consider when building secondhand PCs, but if you're talking strictly from a value perspective, secondhand PCs blow the PS5 Pro out of the water. Now, I don't know what a PS5 Pro would go for secondhand, but it probably won't be cheap for a long time. So if it were me, look at that. That is a beautiful computer, and it is close to the price of a PS5 Pro. So that's probably what I would do. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.